So now we're going to talk about troubleshooting. Troubleshooting a light is figuring out why it's either not turning on or why there's no light coming out of the instrument. So when we do this, at least when I do this, I like to start at one end of our electrical system and then work my way toward the other end. I find it to be the easiest, most surefire way to figure out where everything is. Now, our electrical system in this case is a little complicated, but I believe we can follow along and get this done. So, generally, because I'm lazy, I will always start at the light. This fun little drawing right here, that is our light. Now, our light is plugged into a circuit or dimmer. You could also call this an address. Now, that address runs through a raceway that connects to a breaker box that goes all the way up through blah 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 blah, a bunch of cable down to our dimmer system. And then our dimmer system is also simultaneously connected with our control console or light board. So if you look at it, we can start here, work all the way through down to here, and then U-turn and get to the lighting control console where this is the end. So when I start to troubleshoot a light, again, I start at the light itself, at the instrument. Now there are a couple ways to see if this guy is on. A couple of things I'm going to look for as well. I'm going to look to make sure it's plugged in. In this case, I'm just going to assume that it's plugged in. I'm also going to look to see if some dumb jerk left all the shutters pushed in, if it's an ERS light. If it's not an ERS light and it's not turning on, then I know I have a bigger problem. But if it is an ERS light and all the shutters are pushed in, but there's like a little faint light shooting out of the cap at the top, I know that I'm going to yell at someone later that day. Anyway, if the shutters are pushed in, I pull them out, problem solved. If the shutters are pulled out and there's still no light coming out of it, I know a bigger problem. So the next thing I'm going to do is check the lamp in the back of the lighting instrument. In order to check the lamp that's in the back of the lighting instrument, I will once again call upon my handy dandy gam check. I will set it to lamp. I will take my plug and connect it to my gam check, and if it's, again, it screams at me, I know it's good. But if for some reason we plug it in and it's not screaming at it because there's nothing connected to this one, well, then we know there's a problem. If there is no continuity, or if this is not screaming at you, generally that means it's going to be a bad lamp. So the way we fix that is just by replacing the lamp. If it's not the lamp and if I have good continuity, then what I'm going to do next is make sure that the plug that the power cord is plugged into on the raceway is in good condition. If that is in good condition, I will then take my gam check again, and I will set it to cable. And after I set it to cable, I will turn the address back on and make sure that there is power running through it. If there is no power running through this system, if I plug my gam check in here and it doesn't give me a reading, I will first check to make sure that my cable is connected all the way throughout my pipe. And if that is okay and still connected, then I will go all the way downstairs in the hierarchy to my dimmer or power source, and then I will make sure that that is turned on. If that is turned on and still nothing is turning on, then I will go all the way to my control board, and I will make sure that everything in my control board is in a good setting. And if it's not in a good setting, then I will fix it. And then if I check all of these things and everything looks right and it's still not turning on, well, yeah. I've never actually had that happen to me before. It's usually the control console, the dimmer being off, or something wrong with the light or our raceway. One time, just once, I found out that everything was right here at the dimmer, on the raceway, the light, everything was fine, but it still wasn't turning on. It turned out there was a disconnect between the control console and the dimmer that I generally overlooked because I just assumed that it was always there, always correct. It was not this one time, and I had egg on my face. So yes, always be sure to check everything. Oh, hey, look, it's this guy again. So let's assume that this is a bad lamp. That is our problem. What I'm going to do is remove the bad lamp first and then replace it with a good lamp. You can buy these at most theatrical supply stores. You generally cannot buy these at Home Depot stores. They are pretty industry specific. So first thing I'm going to do is going to take the retention clip off and out. Now, this is a dead lamp, which means I can do this. I'm touching the glass, I'm doing that thing I'm not supposed to do. It's dead, who cares? So, get this dead lamp out any way you can. Sometimes it gets stuck in there, sometimes it's just difficult. Dead lamp. Set this guy aside or throw him away, one or the other. Next, take your new lamp. And then with your new lamp, it always comes, generally, with this fun foam. Now, a lot of people think that this foam is to protect the light during transfer and storage. While that is true, it serves a fun secondary purpose, which is I can use it to grab the glass and therefore not touch it. I take this pin and this pin, line it up with the two holes in the socket, and then you wiggle it just a little bit, push down as hard as you can, put the retention clip back on, and voila, you have swapped out a lamp. Now, before you move on, what you want to do is you want to take your GAM check and plug the power plug back in to make sure you didn't just put a busted lamp into your cap. It has happened before. It's a pain in the ass when it does, so again, double check. That's how you swap out a lamp. Sometimes you'll take your power cord, plug it into your GAM check, and it will give you a negative reading on continuity. And if you open the cap up and take a look at your lamp will look perfectly fine. But there's still no light coming out of it. I wonder what the problem could be then. That might be it. So, the next thing to check when your source 4 isn't turning on is to, if the lamp looks fine, check your plug. Now, I took this off, obviously. What I'm going to do now is show you how to reconnect these wires into a 2PNG plug. So, with your 2PNG plug, you have these 3 terminals to put your wires into. There's a little hole right there that all the copper wire fits into, and then you tighten it down with these screws on top. Now, it goes in a very specific order. The first one you want to start with is not either of the ends, but the middle one. The middle one has this GR symbol right there. That stands for ground, or green, because your ground wire is green. Hey, look at that. So, start with that one first, and then what I would do is I would move on to my neutral, and I would save my hot wire for last. Notice that the hot wire is separated from the other two. You always want to isolate the hot wire because, again, live electricity will be flowing through this if your system is on. That being said, before you even start anything or any kind of work on this, make sure you turn everything off. I cannot tell you how many times I've shocked myself because I simply ignored that one rule. So I'm going to pull a couple of tools back from the previous lecture, specifically our wire strippers and the screwdriver, because both are going to be needed. Now, I already sheared away some of the insulation on these guys, but I did not shear it away on this one, so I'm going to do that real quick. Doop. There we go. So now I have a bunch of the conductive wire on the inside exposed enough so that I can hook this guy up. Again, like I said, start with the middle one first. I'm going to inspect the wire and make sure that it is all together. If it is not, I'm just going to give it a little twist. Insert it into the terminal. Make sure that guy's not going anywhere near it. And then tighten that sucker down. Give it a little tug. And then I move on to my next, the neutral. Get them all good and in there. And again, tighten them down. Lastly, I get my hot. He's starting to fray, so I'm going to twist him back together. Get him in this terminal. And before I do that, I'm actually going to look at my exposed wire, and I notice that I actually have a lot more than I need to. So I'm going to trim that down for a hot second. And for a hot second, I mean forever. twist him back together, get him into his terminal, and tighten him down. Now, the reason why I trimmed that copper wire down is because I don't want to risk the chance of a cross. A cross is when one of these wires on the inside crosses or touches each other physically on the inside of the plug. When that happens, bad things happen, such as the plug could melt, a breaker could trip, things break. Electricity is a fickle thing. Do it right, and things will work out in your favor. Now, after everything is plugged in and tied down, I'll take my cover, put it back on, press it down, put my screws back in, and tighten this back together. And that is how you rewire a plug and make sure it is all hunky-dory on the inside. Switch the lamp, making sure it's plugged in the right way. Oh hey, it's screaming at me. How about that? Ta-da! So the next thing we're going to talk about is replacing a part on a light and also electrical cable. So generally, replacing a part on a light doesn't really affect whether the light's going to turn on or off or not. The only part that can really do that is either the plug or the socket that's inside the light, or the lamp. And we just went over how to change those and fix those. The only other thing that could really affect the performance of light is the shutter or the reflector. I'm not going to show you how to fix those. If one of those is broken, get someone else's help to fix it because it's a giant pain. That being said, continuing along the pathway, if your light is working perfectly fine, but your cable isn't, well, then you have a bigger problem. So with electrical cable, they also will have two P&G plugs on one end or the other, a male and a female. Now, the way that you would fix this is the same way you would fix a plug on a light. However, they're a little bit different. Look closely, please. Notice that they have the green wire and they have a white wire, but there's also a black wire in there. Now, the black wire is in the spot that is the hot wire, and you guessed it, that is the hot. So with electrical code, and just, because people are dumb, we have color-coded electrical wires so that it's a little bit easier to remember which one's which. White is always neutral, green is always ground, and then in all of our cable, the hot wire is always black. However, I've seen them be blue, I've seen them be red, I've seen them be tangerine, pick a color. Generally, the wire with color will be the wire that is the hot wire. So what this means is that everything needs to be wired in a very specific order. It needs to exactly reflect what's going on one end with the other end, which means the neutral wants to be in the same spot, the green wants to be in the same spot, and the hot wants to be in the same spot. I know what you're going to ask next. Which one of these wires do I cut in order to defuse a bomb? The answer is, I have no idea. All I know is don't bother cutting the green because it's just a safety feature. It's not going to do anything. So actually, if you want to, you can cut the green wire. Again, it won't do anything. That being said, make sure when you are fixing your cable, if one of these is loose, put it back into the receptacle that it belongs to. White for neutral, green for ground, black for hot, or colored for hot. Whenever you're working on a light, or trying to fix a light, or doing anything to a light, unless you're focusing it, it wants to be off. That is the most safe, most appropriate way that you can work or do anything with lighting. Work while it is off. A, you're not going to burn your hands. B, you're not going to bust the lamp, because if the lamp is on and you're shaking it and moving it around, there's a chance that you could shake the filament loose and then it becomes disconnected and then you're out $25 for a new lamp. Apart from making sure that your system is off, make sure you are checking your work before you turn things back on, whether it's with your GAM check, continuity checker, visual inspection. It prevents you from having to turn everything back off to reopen everything up to work on it again. If you have your checks done and making sure everything is correct before you turn it back on, there's a higher chance that you will not miss an oversight or a mistake that you made while you are working on your light. In conclusion, that is how you troubleshoot a light, fix some of the common problems you run into on a light, and that is also some of the tools that we use as electricians on a day-to-day basis inside of our theater. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or feel free to post anything on the discussion board. That's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Funny joke.